Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and to open up the week, we actually got some very exciting news for really anybody who's a fan of Bethesda RPGs. In the past, we've talked about the Xbox Bethesda acquisition and how the two can work together to benefit their fans, and one of the most dreamed up scenarios sounds a whole lot more realistic today. A very interesting leak seems to point at a possible collaboration for the Fallout franchise that I think fans will be very, very excited about. Then we also got some news for one of their other franchises being Starfield. It sounds like they're cooking up a few different things for Starfield that, to me, could boost it to that next level of fun. This could actually fix one of my biggest complaints with that game. Then also stay tuned for some more Nintendo Switch 2 news because it really just kind of appears the floodgates have opened. We have yet another leak to talk about for that Switch successor. Before we get started, though, do make sure to hit that subscribe button. According to my analytics, around 50% of you still currently aren't subscribed, so let's just go ahead and change that today. It helps the channel out a ton, and in return, I'll deliver you these daily gaming news updates. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things. Starting off with Kingdom Hearts 4. That's not really a game that I was expecting to talk about today, but I do like the Kingdom Hearts series, so I'm very happy about this news. And really just speaking of opening up the floodgates, Square Enix might blow the lid off of Kingdom Hearts 4 rather soon, or at least according to a new leak by Daniel RPK. He recently leaked information for a Sonic Frontier sequel as well, which was also corroborated by Midori. Now, as always, you can take these leaks as you will. Nothing is necessarily confirmed, and that's always important to keep in mind. But according to him, Square Enix is planning to release Kingdom Hearts 4 next year in 2025. Now, of course, Square Enix first revealed Kingdom Hearts 4 back in 2022, and it first started development in 2020. So I think based off of that timeline, a 2025 release date does actually seem realistic. That's a reasonable 5-year development cycle. I think the only thing about that is that Kingdom Hearts fans kind of side-eyes any reasonable development cycle just because there was such a large gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. There was a 14-year gap between the two numbered entries. But you know, that's also kind of the thing about this series. Kingdom Hearts was still relevant across those 14 years because they also had 10 different spin-offs in between that time frame, all of which, by the way, are important to the overall story. I mean, Square Enix honestly could not have handled this series worse than what they did. But there is this sense that Square Enix may have fixed those longer development cycles up. They've recently done much better with the Final Fantasy series as well, and while that's a completely different franchise, there is hope that they've done the same thing with Kingdom Hearts 4 as well. I think as long as they can focus their primary attention on Kingdom Hearts 4 rather than all of these different side projects, then hey, a 5-year development cycle does seem realistic. I mean, if anything, I guess we'll see soon enough. If this is true, we'll probably get a trailer within the next year, possibly even as early as maybe next month at that rumored PlayStation showcase. Now, we also got some news for Stellar Blade, and last year, I told you all the most bizarre discourse that I had ever seen was for Starfield. I thought the conversations around that game was absolutely ridiculous because it was just so obvious that a certain group wanted it to fail. And we can act like that wasn't the case, but it was clear as day. No, Starfield is not the game of the generation as certain people hyped it up to be. But Menugate is by far one of the most mind-numbing controversies that I have ever seen in gaming. And now, we can apparently add Stellar Blade to that list as well. This game has been surrounded by controversy after controversy after controversy. And I think it's gotten to the point where both sides have lost sight of the situation. It all started with some back and forth on how the main character looks. I'm perfectly fine with how she looks. I think if you want to make an attractive character, that should be perfectly fine. I see no problem with that. I don't know. But now, all of a sudden, you have the same people that were previously championing this game, and now there's also a portion of them that are suddenly mad because there was a discovery that a few costumes were censored in the final updated release. I understand the argument that they're trying to make here. Nobody likes censorship, and they don't want games to be censored at all. And that's not just about Stellar Blade, but there is a distrust with modern-day media. So, like, I understand the debate, and you can even say it's reasonable to an extent, in this case, just because Shift Up's game director told fans that Stellar Blade was going to be completely uncensored. So to find out that there was even a few minor changes might feel misleading for that group of people. But at the same time, like I look at this game and some of the things that's in it, and it doesn't really seem all that censored. Yes, there's a few costumes that were altered, but there's also several others that are still just over the top compared to what you see in other AAA games out there. So I feel like the people that were championing this game before still ultimately got what they wanted, and by them to turn around and try to refund it for false advertisement, I am a little perplexed by that, because you're kind of sending a mixed message. I mean, if you want to fight censorship, go ahead and unsubscribe from PlayStation Plus. A lot of people have been doing that. But to refund a game that kind of gave you what you wanted, like here's the thing. If you weren't on social media and if you weren't aware that this game was slightly censored, you probably wouldn't think it was censored at all, because everything else that's in this game. So, I don't know. I think the discourse has just gotten a little too far by this point. And the thing is that Stellar Blade is a really good game. And it feels like both sides have kind of lost sight of that. I mean, I guess it is what it is, but let me know what you all think about this situation. Where do you stand on it? And do you think people have just gone too far by this point? Like, I understand there will be a lot of differing opinions on this topic, and that's something that I welcome on this channel. I welcome differing opinions, and that's the thing about me. I just want people to be good to each other, and, that's the most important thing to me. Now, let's go talk about Bethesda, though, and you know what? We might as well just go and talk about last year's most controversial game, being Starfield. Well, I do have some great news if you're a fan of Starfield, or even really for people who are still tempted to play it. The legendary Todd Howard, in an interview with Kinda Funny Games, revealed their plans for Starfield in 2024. They gave us a release window for its anticipated DLC, Shattered Space. It will be out this fall, so there you go. But truthfully, I don't even think that this was the most exciting thing that he revealed. He also mentioned other features that they're currently working on, and this includes new shipbuilding features, city maps, new difficulty options, and most interestingly, new display modes on console. Now, what this means is exactly what we talked about last week. Bethesda recently updated Fallout 4 to include a 60 frames per second mode, and even 40 frames per second if you have a 120 hertz display. Well, if you take that information and what we're hearing today, it kind of sounds like there's a very realistic chance that Starfield does the same thing. Now, I don't know if they'll get 60 FPS with Starfield on console, but a 40 FPS option absolutely sounds realistic by this point. So for me, I think that's incredible news, because that was my absolute biggest complaint when it came to Starfield last year. To me, and to a lot of other people, 30 FPS just doesn't feel great, and especially if you play on an OLED display. So a 40 FPS option might really push Starfield to that next level. So yeah, Starfield could have a big year in 2024, and I think that's exactly what you want to see from Bethesda. Their games have such a long shelf life with the community, and if they can get Starfield in a good place, then it has a lot of potential to last for a very long time, like their previous games. For that matter, a big part of that equation is the mod support, and he confirmed that news for its mod tools will come soon. Apparently, some selected creators already have the tools in hand, and, yes, this does include both PC as well as Xbox. So big news with that as well. Now, as for Fallout, though, everybody has Fallout fever right now. Fans are loving the Amazon show because it is very good, and they just confirmed it's already been watched by 65 million people. Microsoft and Bethesda has a huge hit on their hands, which has been more than evident with the resurgence of older Fallout games. The only problem with all of this, and we've talked about this before, Xbox and Bethesda didn't exactly plan this potential success very well, because they currently have 0 Fallout games in the pipeline. Bethesda's next game is The Elder Scrolls 6, which, hey, I'm excited about that game. I actually like Elder Scrolls more than Fallout, but despite that, there's no plans to start Fallout 5 until The Elder Scrolls 6 finishes up. So, we're still talking probably about another 8 to 10 years before we see the eventual Fallout 5 by Bethesda. So that's not exactly ideal for the hype train that we're currently seeing with the Amazon show. But according to Jez Corden, Microsoft and Bethesda are very aware of the situation, they're very aware of the demand, and they're allegedly in early discussions to fast-track a new Fallout title. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Fallout 5 is going to come out any sooner. In fact, it actually sounds like Bethesda's plans will not change at all. They still will work on The Elder Scrolls 6 first. However, it sounds like Team Xbox wants to outsource Fallout to a different studio and to have it out within the current decade. So sometime before 2030, maybe by the time Fallout Season 4 or Season 5 is out, then we'll also get a new Fallout game to kind of pair with that. The big question with all that, though, is who exactly will work on this game? And I think we all know the obvious answer to this problem. It's got to be Obsidian Entertainment. They, of course, were behind Fallout New Vegas, and ironically, it's a fan favorite. A lot of people actually view Fallout New Vegas as the pinnacle of the Fallout franchise. And this is what a lot of people wanted from the Bethesda acquisition in the first place. Xbox now has Obsidian and Bethesda under the same umbrella, and this could give them the perfect opportunity to make a new Vegas sequel like fans have been wanting for years and years. In fact, we've actually heard some rumblings that there are some key people within Obsidian that wants to make another Fallout game. And if you look at the timeline, Obsidian is also finishing up with Avowed this year, so the stars are kind of aligning up here. If they wanted to, Xbox and Obsidian could move that Avowed team to the next Fallout game as long as everybody's on board. Now, there's definitely some questions with all of that, but hypothetically, if they do decide to do this, let's say Obsidian starts development in 2025. Well, then a 2029 release is actually realistic so long as development goes smooth. I mean, that's always a big if, but I think in terms of business, and really for fans, it would be the smart move for them to make. I mean, otherwise, fans are going to have to wait until like 2032 or later for Fallout 5. So if they could get Obsidian on a Fallout game again, I think that would work very well for everybody. It would work well for Xbox, it would work well for Bethesda, and it would work out for fans most importantly. But you know what? Let me know what you all think about all this. Do you like this idea? Or would you instead rather Obsidian focus on their own franchises? Now, one last thing I want to talk about, though, is the Nintendo Switch successor. We have yet another leak that follows up the story that we talked about last week. Allegedly, the new controllers for the Switch 2 will attach itself through some kind of magnetic connection. Well, another source came forth to corroborate this information, this time from Mobopad, which is a peripheral maker, and they gave us 6 different details that they've allegedly acquired. So let's just go and check out what they said. So 1, the Switch 2 will continue to support existing Joy-Cons and the Pro controllers, still equipped with ALPS dual-axis linear motors for HD rumble. Number 2, and this is one of the more interesting points, the cartridge slot of the Switch 2 will support backwards compatibility with physical Switch game cartridges, ensuring compatibility with players' existing game libraries, including digital versions. However, the second-generation cartridges may not be compatible with the first-generation console. Number 3, though, is the new version of Joy-Con has a larger volume, and the sliding rail structure has been changed to magnetic suction. The SL and SR buttons are metal buttons. Magnetic suction is achieved through electromagnetic suction technology controlled by electric current. It's worth noting that in addition to the L, ZL, R, and ZR buttons on the sides of the Joy-Con controllers, a third button has been added on both the left and right sides. Number 4, the bottom of the Switch 2 will still feature a USB-C port for docking, and the new generation dock will undergo minor changes in appearance while enhancing performance, supporting 4K resolution. Number 5, the new dock will feature a damping bracket on the back, allowing for a greater range of adjustable angles. And then for number 6, the screen will be upgraded to an 8-inch display supporting 1080p resolution. That's something that we have been hearing pretty much by everybody. So that's, a lot of interesting details if true. It actually backs up some information that we've heard previously. But I think the 2 big points here are the 4K resolution and then backwards compatibility. I think for a lot of the other stuff, we just need to kind of see it for ourselves to see how it all works out. But there's definitely been a lot of speculation about the resolution and backwards compatibility specifically. Now, I've always had a very strong opinion about the backwards compatibility. I'd be shocked if the Switch 2 doesn't support the current Switch games in some shape or form. Nintendo historically has done a great job with backwards compatibility, and that's why I'm going in with some confidence. I mean, if it doesn't happen, I'll come back on the channel and I'll kind of chew into them for that. But currently, I'm just not all that worried about this. And, that's why it's good to see a leak like this kind of justify that there will be some form of backwards compatibility. Now, as for 4K resolution, though, I think that's nice to hear as well, but it's definitely important to keep in mind that this could be and probably has something to do with AI upscaling technology. It might not necessarily be native 4K resolution, but even still, because they work with NVIDIA technology, they will have DLSS, and that's one advantage that they have compared to other consoles. DLSS is better than AMD FSR, which is what Xbox and PlayStation currently use. Now, PlayStation apparently has their own AI upscaling technology with the Pro model. We'll see how all of that works out, but DLSS is the pinnacle of this type of technology, and that could really help them with the Nintendo Switch 2. So if all of this is actually true, I like what I'm hearing for the most part. Again, we need to kind of see about the full slate of backwards compatibility. But again, just kind of keep in mind that all of this is just a rumor for the time being. I guess if anything, it kind of feels like the floodgates have opened up a little bit because we are starting to hear things once again. So hopefully that cycle continues until we get some concrete information that feels a little bit more certain. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but definitely let me hear what you all think about the Fallout situation. How do you feel about Stellar Blade as well? And also, what do you think about the backwards compatibility on the Nintendo Switch 2? Do you think that rumor has any truth, or do you just think it's all fabricated? Because you never know about these things. But until next time, peace out.